Welcome to this session of the Indian writer writing in English. It is prescribed for the SYBA class, Optional English. Today we'll begin with the short story, famous short story by Robindranath Tagore, entitled The Cabuliwallah. Let me begin with the introduction of this great literary figure and political figure also. Robindranath Tagore, born on 1861 and died in 1941. He is the youngest son of Robindranath Tagore, who founded the Brahmo Samaj. That Brahmo Samaj was founded to revive the Upanishadic teaching to the Indian people. Initially, Rabindranath Tagore has got the teaching at home. Later on, he was sent to the England, formerly to get his education. But without completing the education, he returns. Later on, he founded the Shantiniketan, one of the greatest institution of India, which has a base on the Gurukul system. At the same time, this literary figure, as I mentioned, Rabindranath Tagore, is a prolific writer in English. He is basically wrote in Bengali language. Later on, he himself translated all these uh, literary output in English. To his credit, various dramas are there, various short stories are there, and also one of the famous poem, I would say, the great epic, that is the Gitanjali, a well-known work created by the Rabindranath Tagore, a song offering, the second title of that Gitanjali. For that poem, he got the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1930. Along with this great writer has written the national anthem of India and as well as the Bangladesh. The Janagana Mana is the national anthem of our India. So that national anthem of India and Bangladesh, so he has written. To his credit, various plays are there. Among his plays, The King of the Dark Chamber and Muktudhara, and his novels are Gora and The Home and the World. So these are his some of the major works are there. As far as the today's short stories are concerned, it is the Kabuliwala. Kabuliwala is a story about a girl who is having some of the prejudices about this Kabuliwala and how the story unfolds as the time passes, her fears wiped out, how the relation forms between the Kabuliwala and that girl. So all these are narrated with a simple, lucid way by this literary figure. To me, Rabindranath Tagore is a writer of human relationship. Let me give a very simple example from his another short story, that is Homecoming. The story is about the Fatik Chakravarti and his the elder younger brother. So in that story also, Rabindranath Tagore peeps into the psychology or psyche of the younger ones, how they thought, how they behave in the adolescent age, and so on and so forth. The same way, the Kabuliwala depicts the story of the little girl known as Mini. So, friends, let's begin the actual text of the this short story. Now, through these slides, I would like to show you the text as well as I will, narrate or describe, elucidate the story for your understanding, for your comprehension. So let's begin. My 5 years old daughter, Minnie, cannot live without chatter. The narrator, who is having a daughter, her name is Minnie and her age is 5 years. So she is, always habitual of chatting. Chattering means speak. She used to speak others openly. She is fond of, gossiping. And the narrator narrates about that girl. I really believe that in all her life, she has not wasted a minute in silence. Now, as usually, the children are they are having the habit of speaking to the others. So they becomes never silence. Her mother is often vexed at this. Actually, her mother was annoyed, becomes angry. She was she dislikes her behavior and would stop her prattle. But I would not. But as the father don't want to stop her because he likes her speaking. She is continuously revolving, playing around the narrator. For Minnie, to be quiet is unnatural. Minnie, Minnie's nature naturally is a speaking nature. She is a talkative in nature, and the narrator don't want to bear it long, and so my own talk with her is always lively. Also, the narrator, her father, was in love with Minnie. One morning, for instance, when I was in the midst of the 17th chapter of my new novel, the narrator, her father, he was just writing a novel, and he just entered. He started the 17th chapter. At the same time, suddenly, my little Minnie stole into the room. She entered into the room, and putting her hand into mine, and said, "Father, Ram Dayal, the doorkeeper, calls a crow. He does not know anything, does he?" Mini is inquiring about the pronunciation or the language, the words spoken by the Ramdayal, the doorkeeper at their house. She told him that Ramdayal is using the word differently. And she, at the same time, told her father that he does not know anything. Before I could explain to her the difference between one language and another in this world, she had embarked on the full tide of another subject. The narrator, the father, who was just writing a novel and he is just about to finish the 17th chapter of the novel, suddenly Mini's question, startled him. He was got disturbed and he wants to explain the difference between the language of the common layman and the language of the elite peoples. So they pronounce differently, and the laymen or the common may pronounce differently. Suddenly, he started to explain the pronunciation or the word which is used by the Ramdaya. Suddenly, Mini started or embarked on the full tide of another subject. She started without, concluding the previous subject of the word spoken by the Ramdayal. She started the another subject. So, what do you think, Father? Vola says there is an elephant in the clouds, blowing water out of his trunk, and that is why it rains. So these are the childish child world. In the child world, the same age the same age children speaks on the basis of fictions or the fictitious word is there. So they have the fancies and their imaginations, and with the imagination, one of the one of our colleague, one of our friend that is named as a Bhola, he told her that there is a elephant in the cloud which is hidden, and with its trunk, it showers the water on the earth. It blows the water on the earth. So by that way, rain happens. So this is the conception. This is the thinking about the little ones or the younger ones. She was telling, reporting her father that so this is way by that rain and then darting of a new while I sat still. So suddenly, father listened carefully about her subjects, trying to think of some reply to this. Father, what relation is mother to you? Now suddenly, she changes the another subject. She asks him unexpected question. What is your relationship with mother? So with a grave face, I contrived to say, "Go and play with the phone, Hola." Meaning, I'm busy. So father was irritated. He was just about to scold, about to become angry with the meaning. He says there's a meaning, so don't ask me uh, these questions. I'm very busy. I'm just busy in my writing the novel. So go and play with the bola. So this was the one type of a scolding, one type of anger indicated by these words. Later on, in the second scene of this story, later on, the narrator narrates about the world around the house. He just narrating, describing the happenings around him. The window of my room overlooks the road. It means that in front of window, beyond the window, there is the road. The child had seated herself at my feet. Minnie had, usually sit at his feet near my table. Was playing softly, drumming on her knees. She was just playing softly and hammering on her knees, drumming. So it's like a drumming, playing with the drums. So children play like that. I was hard at work on my 17th chapter. So narrator was so he was thinking uh, hard. He was just about to finish the 17th chapter of his novel, in which Pratap Singh, the hero of that novel, had just caught Kanchanalata, the heroine, in his arms. So the hero Pratap Singh caught in arms heroines and is about to escape with her by the third story window of the castle when suddenly Minnie left her play and ran to the window crying, "A Kabuliwala, a Kabuliwala." Suddenly, Minnie started running. Somehow, she came to know she had seen Cabuliwallah is about, is just passing from their house, and she was just crying, "A Cabuliwallah, a Cabuliwallah." And indeed, in the street below, there was a Cabuliwallah walking slowly along. He wore the loose soiled clothing of his people and a tall turban. So that Kabuliwala wore a soiled clothing. His clothes are old, and he wore a turban. He carried a bag on his back. So he carried a bag on his back and boxes of grapes in his hand. So there were boxes of grapes in his. When she had seen Kabuliwala, she just started loudly and says that Kabuliwala, Kabuliwala. I cannot tell what my daughter's feeling were when she saw this man. Narrator has a difficulty to explain what were the feelings of his daughter, but she began to call him loudly. Oh, thoughts I, he will come in, and my 17th chapter will never be finished. Narrator thought that, Minnie's father thought that my 17th chapter will not be finished because Kabuliwala definitely enters into his house. At that very moment, the Kabuliwala turned and looked up at the child. When she saw this, she was overcome by the terror. When Kabuliwala had seen the Mini, that is the daughter of the narrator, so she got terrified. She was afraid of this Kabuliwala. So these are like Afghani peoples, Pathans, running to her mother's protection. She started to run to the mother's protection and disappear. She had a blind belief that inside the bag which the big man carried, there were perhaps two or three other children like herself. Someone might have told her that Kabuliwalas are the stealers of the children. That in his bag is carrying, that in his bag he is hiding some of the children. He is just stealing some of the children. Like her, one or two children are there. So these are the misconceptions of the meaning. The peddler, meanwhile, entered my doorway and greeted me with a smile. So street hawkers, he enters into their house and he greeted, say, namaste or like that to the narrator. So precarious was the position of my hero and my heroine. In this difficult condition, narrator's hero and heroine thought that my first impulse was to stop and buy something. Father thought that, Minnie's father thought that we should stop and buy something since Minnie had called the man to the house because Minnie had called this man, that is Kabuliwala, to their house. So I made some small purchases. Accordingly, he bought something, so he purchases some of the things from that Kabuliwala, and we began to talk about the Abdul Rahman, the Russians, the English, and the frontier policy. So they have the discussion on the various matters with this Kabuliwala. As he was about to leave, he asked, the Kabuliwala just about to leave, he was just about to leave the place. He asked, and where is the little girl, sir? That Meanie, that called me, where is that girl? And then thinking that Meanie must get rid of her false fear, I had her brought. I thought that her father thought that he, so she had some of the wrong fears in his mind. So he brought that little child before him, that is Kabuliwala. She stood by my chair and looked at the Kabuliwala and his bag. Curiously, she is looking at the bag because someone told her that in that bag there are childs or there are children. He offered her nuts and raisins as a gift, as a token of love. Cabuliwallah offered nuts, groundnuts, and raisins, sweets, but she would not be tempted. She is not attracted. She is not tempted by these gifts, and only clung to the closer to me. So she clung, she held her father tightly with all her doubts increased. So she thought that with these gifts, Cabuliwallah, also take her away from her father. So this was the first meeting. So through this narration, Robindranath Tagore's technique of deciphering or peeping into the child psychology is, is unique. He has that sort of quality to enter into the psychology of the children as well as to the other people's characters are there. Gradually, the relationship is unfolded through the story. Now, this is the first instance, this is the first meeting between the Mini and the Cabuliwallah. A few mornings later after some days, however, I was leaving the house. So he was just the narrator was just about to leave the place. I was started to find Mini seated on a bench near the door. I was surprised. He was just astonished. Mini wasn't sitting on the bench near the door and laughing and talking with the great Cabuliwallah. And Cabuliwallah becomes a friend, and they started conversations, and the friendly conversations was going on. So this happens after the few days. In all her life, it appeared my small daughter had never found so patient a listener save her father. Initially, her father, Mini's father, was the listener because her mother was already irritated by her gossips, babbling, or whatever we call it. For the first time in her life, she got the patient listener in the form of Cabuliwallah. He becomes a close friend, and already the corner of her little sari was stuffed with the almonds and raisins. As a token of love, whenever Cabuliwallah visits Mini, he gave her uh, those sweets in the form of nuts and almonds and raisins, the gift of her visitor. Why did you give her those? I said, as he is poor, he is uh, selling his commodities, and by that way he is earning his livelihood. So father, that is Mini's father, was not he, 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 he don't like all these things because so he's poor. Why should we take all these gifts? Because his life is based on that. That's why he asked question, why did you give her those? I said, and taking out an 8 anna piece. Mini's father take 8 anna piece and handed it to him. So he gave it to him. The man accepted the money without demur and put it into his pocket. So that Cabuliwallah take that 8 annas piece and so put it into his pocket. Alas, on my return an hour later, but later after an hour, I found the unfortunate coin had made twice its own worth of trouble. For the Cabuliwallah had given it to me. Then the same coin is handed to the Mini by the Cabuliwallah. And her mother, catching sight of the bright round object, had pounced on the child with, where did you get that 8 annas piece? So mother got angry. Where did you got that 8 annas piece? That paisa? The Cabuliwallah gave it to me, said Mini cheerfully. So she becomes very excited and she, with a happy tone, she told her mother that so Cabuliwallah gave me this anna. Cabuliwallah gave it to you? Cried her mother and greatly shocked. Oh Mini, how could you take it from him? She scolding. She becomes very angry with her daughter. So I'm not expecting you to take that money, take that 8 anna from a poor Cabuliwallah whose livelihood is based on his sale. So she becomes a very angry mother. And the same is the opinion about this condition of the narrator, that is father. I entered at the moment and saving her from the impending disaster. Proceeded to make my own inquiries. Suddenly, father interferes into that conversation, and he asked some questions to the Mina. It was not the first or second time I found that the two had met. Narrator told that. So this is not the first or second time they met. The Cabuliwallah had overcome the child's first terror by a judicious bribe of nuts and almonds. Cabuliwallah is a friendly fellow. He overcomes the child's psychology of the terror and he becomes a friend by bribing, by giving the gifts in the form of nuts and almonds. And the two were now becomes a great friends. So their conversation shows that there is a warm feeling between these two. One is a very elder one, another is very younger one. So they had many quaint jokes. So they talked freely. They make some jokes which amused them greatly. So they found fun out of that. Minnie would seat herself before him. So Minnie would used to sit before him and look down on his gigantic frame in all her tiny dignity, with the dignity and with her face rippling with the laughter would begin. And she started laughing, smiling. Oh, Kabuliwala, Kabuliwala, what have you got in your bag? What is in your bag? And he would reply in the nasal accent of the mountaineer, an elephant. So not much cause of merriment, perhaps, but how they both enjoyed the fun. And for me, the child's talk with the grown-up man had always in it something strangely fascinating. For father, the child's talk with the grown-up person, not sure that both these two enjoyed and they got the fun out of it. For me, the child's talk with the grown-up man had always in it something strangely fascinating. So there is a something strange fascination, imagination is there. And the bond between these two, that is Mini and the Kabuliwala, strengthens as time passes. Then the Kabuliwala, not to be behind hand, would take his turn. Well, little one, and when are you going to your father-in-law's house? The question was very interesting. At that point of time, the children were got married early at the earlier ages. That's why Kabuliwala asked her a question. When are you going to visit your father-in-law's house? So such type of conversations would begins between these two persons. Initially, Minnie was afraid of his company. She thought that he is a stealer, he is a he is theft, he is a thief, could steal the children from their home. But later on, gradually, by the bribes of almonds and groundnuts and other sweets which are given by the Cabuliwala, he enters into her psyche, enters into her heart. It really touches to her heart, and she becomes a friend. And friends, we'll stop here for this session. In the next video, we will continue the same story. Thank you.